Isaiah speaks of the globe in this way. In Isaiah 40, verse 22, it is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. He it is who reduces rulers to nothing, who makes the judges of the earth meaningless. Scarcely have they been planted, scarcely have they been sown, scarcely has their stalk taken root in the earth. But he merely blows on them and they wither, and the storm carries them away like stubble. To whom then will you liken me that I would be his equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes on high, and see who has created these stars, the one who leads forth their host by number. He calls them all by name. Because of the greatness of his might and the strength of his power, not one of them is missing. Isaiah was offering, at the very least, a mild rebuke to Israel, who had forgotten who their God was and who were making idols out of wood and out of stone. And he reminded them that the true God sits above the earth and looks down on it. In fact, later Isaiah would say in chapter 66 that God says, "Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool," giving us some of the idea of the majesty and awesome greatness of our God. David didn't see this globe. And though he looked up at the sky and the stars, he never saw such a wonder as a nebula. This is the Flame Nebula, which is some 1,600 light years away from the earth, they tell us, which is an awesome idea of light years. The speed of light and how fast it goes, and this would take a year going at the speed of light, 1,600 years. Of course, there are things they say are even 1,000,000 light years away from us. I don't know. But I do know this, that David wasn't able to look at something like that, which I believe this photo was taken with the Hubble Space Telescope. We have giant telescopes that keep showing us that the universe is even more vast than we ever realized. And as far as they can see things in the universe. But what do we see when we keep looking? We see wondrous, beautiful things created by God. God called Job to account in Job chapter 38. Job had, if you remember the story of Job, he had been afflicted terribly by Satan, and he was finally losing patience, not understanding why me. And so he began to kind of argue with God, and God argued back. You can guess who was the winner. In Job chapter 38, God begins to ask him these questions. And in verse 31 he says, "Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion?" These are constellations, of course, in the sky. "Can you lead forth a constellation in its season and guide the Bear with her satellites? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens, or fix their rule over the earth?" And of course, the answer to all those questions for Job is, no, I don't. No, I can't. Guess what the answer is from the greatest scientist who ever lived? I don't know who that is, by the way. I'm just using that as an example. They would be the same as Job. No, I can't. We don't have any control of the stars, of the satellites. We don't even have anything that can reach a star yet. But God is saying, you, man, are so helpless, then how dare you think that you could speak to me as an equal? We need to think about that sometimes. In the depths of space, where David couldn't see, we see only a further evidence of the wonder and beauty of God and his creation. Not only in the depths of outer space, though, but in the depths that you can look at it that way of inner space. David didn't have a microscope. He couldn't look at something so small that it would take a powerful microscope to look at, such as this microscopic protozoa that you're looking at here. And by the way, until I think blew it up like this, I wasn't aware that there's a face there, the two eyes and the mouth, and he even has a beard, kind of like mine. There's one thing for sure, this is a being that's alive and that moves around, and even though nobody could see them without the help of a microscope, thank you, microscope, they actually have function. There's a purpose for these microscopic beings. In many cases, good purposes. In some cases, they can be bad. They can be diseases. But they break down material that allows larger beings to be able to digest that material. David could never have seen anything like that, but guess who could have? Not only could have, but did. As God concluded his creation, we read in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 31 that God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. There was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. Nothing, as far as vast as it can be in this universe, is outside the reach of God's vision. And nothing as tiny as it can be. And of course, we've gone even smaller. I mean, atoms, when they discovered those somewhere around the turn of the 20th century, what a big thing that was, because nobody could see an atom, but yet somehow they could figure out they were there. Now we know that our own DNA, the very basic building